YouTube family? It's Designer Malcolm, and I want to thank you for tuning in on this video. In this lecture, we're going to talk all about grids. Grids. It doesn't matter if you are an illustrator, if you are a photographer, if you're a product designer. Grids are essential, and I'm going to help you out and give you some fundamentals that you can use today in your design project. So let's hop right in.
I got to my bestie, someone call my bestie. Say I found my bestie, link up, make the check bleed. You know that I'm smoking dope, I'll be hot till next week. No, I had to let her go, cause she can't arrest me.
Tell her what's up, tell her what's up, tell him it's on, tell him it's on, tell her what's up, tell him it's on, tell him it's on, tell him it's on, tell her what's up, tell him what's up, tell him it's on, tell him it's on, tell her what's up, tell him it's on, tell him it's on.
What is up, YouTube family? Designer Malcolm here, and today I want to introduce you to a game-changing AI toolkit that I use every single day in my businesses. It's my secret weapon to staying ahead in a competitive marketplace. You see, we are living in the age of AI, and here's the truth. If you're not leveraging this incredible technology in your design studio, creative freelance business, or agency, you're setting yourself up to fall behind. Slow businesses lose, period. As a creative entrepreneur, I get it. I've been there, juggling a dozen different tools just to keep my business running. I had Notion for a knowledge base, DocuSign for invoicing, Calendly for scheduling, Webflow for websites, ClickUp for project management, School for my community, Slack for my team communication, and HubSpot for my CRM. The list was endless, and the chaos was real. This kind of tech bloat is a serious problem in our industry, and honestly, it's unnecessary. When your workflow is scattered across multiple tools, your efficiency tanks, and running your business feels like trying to sprint through a swamp. That's why I made the switch. You see, Lancer OS is an all-in-one AI-powered toolkit built specifically for design studios, creative entrepreneurs, freelancers, and agencies. With Lancer OS, you can seamlessly automate client acquisition, streamline project management, improve client communication, send invoices, and honestly, there's so much more, all from one powerful platform. What's the goal? Well, the goal is to help 10,000 businesses like yours eliminate tech bloat, cut costs, and operate like a well-oiled machine. If you're serious about taking your business into the AI age and staying ahead of the curve, now is the time to act. As a part of my design family, and I love you guys, you're getting exclusive access to a 30-day free trial of Lancer OS. Don't wait until you're left behind. Join the 10,000 army already transforming their business today with Lancer OS. So let's build something incredible together, and let's change the industry. What is going on, Designer Malcolm family? Today's lecture, we're going to talk all about grids. Now, funny story, I did not learn about grids until, I don't know, not midway, but a little bit later into my career. So first off, let me get a little bit about myself. I went to design school for fashion. So that's what I studied. That is my discipline. But on the side, I learned graphic design. And actually, prior to going to fashion school, I was a graphic designer. It was just a skill I picked up. I had gotten an apprenticeship at like 18, and I was making business cards for companies. I used to work at a print shop, which was a lot of fun. And that's honestly the best way to learn. But with that does come some downside if you don't constantly learn and enhance your skills. And so for the longest time, um, I never used grids, surprisingly. I would use, actually I take it back. So I would use the ruler. There's like a ruler feature in And almost all these design tools, you can like pull the ruler out and it'll create like a blue line. So I would align my stuff, but I never officially used grids until like I had saw someone using them. I was like, oh wow, I'm late to the party. But by that time, I had moved on. I was doing other stuff, but it really became important when I stepped into my professional career. So I actually didn't get work in fashion. I ended up working as a product designer for a while. And it was just something I did because I knew what I was doing. And I had been doing like graphic stuff, graphic design, which naturally turned into product design and understanding how to make uh, user interfaces. And that's when grids really um, came into play for me. So if I can save any of you all the headache, if you're not aware of this, but you want to learn grids and you want to know when, and well, you should always use them, but you want to know some of the fundamentals about them. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So in the course or in the lecture, it's more of a lecture. We're going to talk about what is a grid layout, why use a grid, the anatomy of a grid, types of grids, tools to create grids, designing with grids, common mistakes to avoid, why grids aren't always perfect, and grids. Say that 1,000 times fast. You might say grits. I love grits, by the way. Grits are delicious. Actually, I grew up on grits. My grandma would make grits, but it's different than grids. All right. Anyway, what is a grid layout? All right. A grid layout is a framework. What is a framework? Well, a framework is just a methodology, right? That organizes content using rows and columns. You see it everywhere. Grids are even essential, not just, I mean, catalog and magazine is design. Like if you're using InDesign, that's a form of design in its way. So you're going to see it all over, right? Not just on UI elements and screens. So it's important to know that. And as a matter of fact, you can use grids to. We actually did this in my life drawing class to help with drawing and proportions. If you're painting, making a painting, obviously you get good enough, you don't need it. But when you're starting off and you're doing like um, painting and stuff like that in that medium, grids are very helpful. Um, you can think of them as the backbone of your design. They kind of help give your design structure and alignment consistency. Less about structure, but more alignment consistency. And they help maintain order. And there we go. You're going to see this a lot. That word balance. You saw that word balance in typography. You saw that word balance in color theory. You saw that word balance now in grids. Balance is essential. You really want to master balance. And then it also helps with the readability in your design. Simply put, they make your work look professional and not amateur. Why would anyone want to use a grid, right? That's what I was thinking. But you know what you don't know, right? Here's why. It simplifies your design process and it improves your user experience. This is so true, right? It's almost like, would you ever build a house without laying down a foundation? No. Why? Because it would be hard as hell. It'd be so difficult. What are you going to do? Put the roof up first? No. It really simplifies your design processes. And as a matter of fact, in the professional world, there will be many times when you work with other designers across departments and you want a source of truth, right? So if no one has that framework, right? And Cindy is over here creating the above the fold web page, landing page this way, and then she leaves and needs you to design it, but there's no grids, and then you come in and you have to add in your stuff and kind of help. There's no structure, and so that's the beauty of grids. So why use them? Well, like we talked about, alignment. The grids ensure that your elements they line up perfectly, and with designs, they can get extremely complex with multiple icons, right? Multiple widgets, multiple this, multiple that, and you're going to want alignment because you want things to look and you want that readability and that accessibility, like we talked about. Remember, to just be on point. This is essential. Consistency. This goes back to my story about Cindy, who's making the web landing page, and then you come in and you need to add something to it. Well, if you don't have grids, you can't have that design consistency amongst your colleagues. And then you won't even have it if, let's say, you run your own agency. You won't even have it within your own agency, within yourself, right? If you don't have consistent grids, if you don't have grids, there's a high chance that one page can look different than the other, lacking consistency, right? Continuity, fluidity. You want that flow. And it's efficient, right? Being a designer is all about, especially like a UI designer or product designer, if you may, illustrator. You want efficiency, right? You don't want to have your tools slow you down, and you don't want to be slowed down by your process. So you want to have parameters in place where as soon as you boot up, you're ready to go. You could just get to doing what the most important thing is, and that's creating, right? So you want to be efficient. Now, I would love to bring someone on who's an efficiency master. I'm not one of these guys. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm not one of these guys who knows all the shortcuts and tricks and little nuances of like Figma or whatnot. And to me, if you are working in a specific program, I would highly recommend you become a master, because when you learn all the nuances and you know all the shortcuts and hotkeys and tricks and trades, you can really ramp up your efficiency, and that is key, right? You can get stuff put out the door quickly, um, and honestly, stagnation is the Achilles heel to creativity, right? If you have to if you're slowed down by something, right? Whether it's lack of consistency and alignments and a lot of these little nuances that can really impede on your creativity. So grids really help with that efficiency. If you want your designs to look polished, we're all about getting you to look polished, right? If you're part of the designer Malcolm crew, we want you to be polished. We want you to be professional. Grids are the way to go. You can use them, you cannot use them. It's up to you. But my professional recommendation would be definitely leverage grids for sure. All right, we're going to get into the anatomy of a grid. This is an anatomy class like your femur, your brain. Nah. This is anatomy of the grid. So we're going to break these little puppies down. We're going to break them all the way down. So your grids, you got columns, gutters, and margins. And I would even throw padding in there, but that's a little like nuance. But anyway, columns. What are columns? Well, not like the Coliseum columns, but columns are what divide the design into sections for placing content. So they run vertical, right? Then you have your gutters, and these are the spaces in between columns. So if you see grids, you see little white spaces in between them, those are your gutters. And then you have your margins, right? So this is the outer space around your design. So it's greatly put. It ensures breathing room. And this is all contained, right? Whether it's on a little iPhone screen or a web page screen, right? It's all cohesive. These elements, they create a flexible framework for you to lay out. And the goal here is for you to have an efficient, polished layout. So when you work hard on that logo, and you work hard on figuring out your color theory and the color palette, and when you work hard on your typography selection, you can't just throw it on the screen, right? You want to have that framework. You want to provide structure, right? Because remember, you've done a lot up to this point. If you're taking someone through the process, and I'll do a lecture about the design process. I think the design process, understanding that is fantastic, can be applied to any discipline. It doesn't matter. It's the same process. there's two processes: design process, and then there's obviously the client process, right? When you're working with a client, so they're not mutually exclusive, but they work together. But anyway, I digress. Um, yeah, you want to make sure you understand these anatomies, and let's move on. Types of grids. So you want to choose a grid based on the complexity of your project and the type of content you're working on. So, for instance, we have manuscript grids, column grids, modular grids, and baseline grids. So, I'm gonna hit on these and kind of talk about each one. So, what is a manuscript grid? So, this is best for text-heavy layouts like books, blogs, magazines. Perfect for that. You have your column grids. So this is what I used a lot. And this is great for layouts that require flexibility, like websites, apps, mobile phones. Now, that word flexibility, why? Why is that? Well, you got to think about it. If you're going to make a book, right, there's just going to be one size book. Think about that, right? If you're writing a book or you're making a magazine, there isn't variations of magazine sizes, right? So the beautiful thing is if you're a magazine editor or whatever, a magazine designer, I don't know, um, you typically set your manuscript grids and you could just go from there, boom, 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 and just bang it out. And a lot of times you can reuse those grids across multiple magazine issues. Now, that's not to say you can't do that with column grids, but you need something that's a little more flexible because of the devices that you're working with, and that's why column grids are the way to go here. You have your modular grids, so it's a combination of rows and columns, and they're perfect for complex designs like dashboards, um, inter, yeah, pretty much dashboards, like anything complex there. Then you have your baseline grids, and they're ideal for aligning text across multiple sections. Those are your types of grids. Right. So, tools to create grids. Most design tools have built-in grid features, which is fantastic. So, tools like Figma, Illustrator, Adobe XD, Sketch, Procreate, they allow you to customize the columns, the rows, and the gutters with ease. And this is essential. Um, I would say before you even do anything in any of these programs, get your grids set up. Understand your grids, get them aligned. They all have them. Photoshop too, all of them. It's just an essential framework for your design. For web design, typically, uh, what's most common is what you call a 12 column grid, just because it's a flexible, popular choice, and that's just what you typically see. So I got a pro tip for you. Always enable grid overlays when designing. It keeps your alignment on point. And the nice thing is in a lot of these, you can toggle it on and off with these, see where stuff's. I don't design 100% with my grids on. What I'll do is I'll see where everything is because, like, once you have an element aligned to a grid, you can kind of leverage that one element to help you align other stuff, right? So that's just a little trick, but it's always good to turn that back. It's like an X-ray vision, right? You turn on your X-ray vision to see if your grids and content and stuff are aligned, and you can turn it off and get back to banging out your design. So designing with grids. You want to start with the framework. You want to choose the number of columns and define your gutters and margins. So it's depending on what you're building, you want to start with that. You want to choose your columns, choose a number. Those be different. And like I said, for web stuff, you go 12, but it all depends on your design, right? The key here is that you want to leverage grid so you can be consistent. And that's the goal, is to make sure everything's consistent, things are the accessibility is on point, and the final product is polished. And you want to place your key elements first. So you want to position your headers, you want to position your navigation, you want to position your main content, and then you want to refine spacing. You want to use consistent padding and align everything to the grid. Grids keep the design clean and structured, no matter how much content you add. That's the beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. So you want to, like I said, start with the framework, place your key elements, then you want to refine spacing, repeat. Start with your framework, place your key elements first, refine spacing. So whenever you enter in a project, start there. Start with your framework, place key elements first, and then you want to refine your spacing. Common mistakes to avoid. Always test your grid on various devices to ensure your design works everywhere. That's key. Now, if I mean, I'm not going to say there's an exception to this. There's always exceptions, but 99.999% you're gonna want to test. And what they call this is uh, I'm losing the word here. Um, Basically, when you can, damn, what is that word? It'll come back to me. So even with grids, mistakes happen, and here are a few to avoid. Overcrowding columns is one. You want to leave enough white space for clarity, right? You learn about white space. Ignoring your gutters. Spacing is crucial for readability, so crucial. And then responsiveness, that's the word. That's why you want to test across multiple devices. That's what it is. Skipping responsiveness. Your grids should adapt to different screen sizes. So that's key, right? In this day and age, we have people on iPads, we have people on their phone, we have people with laptops. Now we have people with eyewear devices. It's only going to get wilder. So you want to make sure you pay attention to the responsiveness. That's the word, responsiveness. Um, and you want to ensure that your grids can adapt and are responsive. So these are some common mistakes to avoid. Now, this is a very light section, but this is why grids aren't always perfect. They're mostly perfect for the most part, but they're essential because they're not set in stone, and sometimes breaking a grid intentionally can create emphasis or creativity, right? So, like I said, master grids first before you break the rules. But if you find your designs over time looking a bit stale, then you kind of, you want to break the boundaries, right? It's good to set things up, have your frameworks in place, and understand why things are the way they are and why you do things the way you do. But like I said in a previous lesson, as designers, we can all oftentimes get in a box, and typically what results from that, us being in that box, is some stale designs. You're not being happy with your work. Um, Things being a little bit dull. You know, I'm all about pushing the boundaries, and I'm all about taking things to the next level and getting exciting and trying things that have never been. Well, a lot of things that almost everything has been done, but trying new things with my own twist and executing things. And a lot of that it may be not following grids. So I think it's essential to understand the principles, understand the rules, use the rules, but also be intentional about when you break the rules. You don't want to create chaos. Final takeaway: grids are the foundation of good design. They provide structure, consistency, balance. That's our favorite word, balance, making your layouts visually appealing and user friendly. So, designer Malcolm family, I hope you enjoyed this lecture. I hope it brought so much value to your skill. I hope and actually, I want to thank you for spending time. What are the next steps here? Well, like always, like, subscribe, and follow. You can find me on Instagram at Designer Malcolm. And one last plug here, scan the QR code. If you are a design studio owner, a creative agency, a creative freelancer, a web development agency, scan the QR code and get your 30-day free trial to Lancer OS. It's time to step up your business. It's time to optimize your workflow. And it's time to streamline everything into one single source of truth. And the way to do that is with Lancer OS. By signing up, it helps the channel. It allows me to keep making these videos for you and keep providing value. And you know what? I love your support. So once again, thank you for joining this lecture. Bye.